Good evening and welcome to the Greenfield Public Schools School Committee meeting for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. It's 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being held fully remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 20. And we will move into a roll call and call to order. I don't see that Secretary Johnson-Musad is yet with us. Member Ekstrom, Vice Chair Ekstrom, would you mind doing a roll call to order, please?
No problem. Chair Proietti.
Here.
Vice Chair Ekstrom. I am here. Secretary Johnson-Musad, not here. Member Karen.
She just returned. She left and returned. She may not have audio yet.
All right, I'll move on. Member Wall.
Here.
Member Hollins.
Here.
Member Karen, let's come back to you.
Yep, now I have audio. I'm here.
Okay. And the mayor will not be attending due to a Ways and Means Committee. And so Here we are. We do have quorum.
Okay. So we call to order at 5:32 p.m. We will be, I do need a motion to go into executive session for exemption number 1 of Mass General Law C30A, subsection 21A, to discuss complaints brought against public officers. The committee will return to open session at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion?
So move.
That was Member Wall. And a second?
Second. Hollins.
Second from Member Hollins. Okay, so we will move into executive session and return around 6 p.m. Oh, I do see that Secretary Johnson-Musad has joined us.
Should we call the
roll call vote? You need a roll call vote.
Oh, roll call vote, sorry. Yes, please.
Chair Proietti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom, yes. Secretary Johnson-Musad.
Yes.
Member Karen.
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Member Hollins. We are unanimous.
Yes.
Everyone has the link. It's for Google Meet.
Yep.
All right, so we will see you over there. No breaks. We just started. You don't get a break before executive session now.
GJM in future, that'd be great. Also, there was a misspelling of Rudy Reno's name. It's R-E-N-A-U-D. But the substantive thing from April 14th is, I think, the chair's determination.
So hold on, Glenn, because you're saying April 14th, that's today.
Oh,
it was either on March 18th or March 25th. Which one are you talking about?
Oh,
I think you're talking about the 18th.
Yeah, that sounds right. Let me just double check. Yep, March 18th.
Okay. And your substantive comment, thank you, is?
I think the chair's determination that Rudy Renault's comments should be stopped, should be included in the notes.
Seems fine. Susan Farber, just making sure you have that.
Hold on. So
Member Ekstrom, go ahead.
So in the past, we have stepped in to interrupt people from speaking who are not on the agenda, and that we step in and to do that is not part of the records. Why are we making that different exception now?
I didn't catch that on previous meeting minutes. I think it should be done going forward. We could also go back and re-revise if people wanted. But
so then that would be something that would be referred to the policy committee for discussion to bring forward to the full committee.
I'm putting it forward currently as a proposed amendment to the meeting minutes.
Yeah,
So, yes,
I get it. I don't have a problem with it. I think the timing is certainly strange, but I don't have a problem with it. I appreciate Member Ekstrom's point that this should have been going on all along if this is important to have on the record. It certainly speaks to the larger discussion that we will have at the policy subcommittee about our policy related to public comment and not allowing comments that aren't on the agenda. We have certainly seen on multiple occasions, not just at this meeting, that policy becomes difficult to enforce for the chair and leads to a lot of confusion and frustration for the public, which is not the intent of the policy. Both of those speak to that it needs to be reviewed. But certainly to make that correction to more accurately reflect what happened is not at issue. I think that if that's important to any member of the school committee to do, I think we should, in every case, I think we should consider it and whenever possible, just approve it. That's totally fine. Further discussion about the minutes. Glenn, did you have other items? I wasn't clear if you had more than one.
nope, that's it.
That's it? Okay. Any other discussion about the minutes from either of those dates, the 25th of March or the 18th of March? I'm not hearing any, so Secretary Johnson-Musad, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom.
No.
Let's see, I don't have my checklist in front of me and I can't see everybody. Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson-Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. So that is the minutes. We're now into public comment. The public comment portion of the meeting begins with anyone who is on the WebEx platform and is able to type their interest in making a public comment by typing their name into the comment section of the application. And we will then take folks who need to announce verbally that they would have an interest in making a public comment. So we'll start with folks who can type in the chat. Is there anyone? I'm not seeing anyone.
Yes, Doug Selwyn.
Okay, so Mr. Selwyn, we'll start with you. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead, state your name and the town you live in before you begin.
Doug Selwyn, Greenfield. Oops, excuse me, just a second.
Doug, we don't have good sound on you unless other people can hear.
It's very quiet. No.
I'll try turning things up. Is that any better?
No.
Well, if you can't hear me, then I will have to.
We can hear you. It's just very quiet. Go ahead and make your comment, please.
Okay. First, about the MCAS. The fact that the children are forced back to school by the commissioner so that they can take the test is still a bad idea. The superintendent's organization has opposed it. The masks organization has sent a letter opposing it. The MTA opposing it. Seems like the only folks who are supporting it are those in the governor's office, those with connections to corporations such as Pearson, and those who want to keep central control no matter what. Has nothing to do with the well-being or educational benefits of the children. Which leads to me asking about what the district policy is regarding opting out. Families absolutely have the right to opt their children out of the test with no negative consequences. All they have to do is write a letter to the teacher and principal saying they're opting their children out of the test. They don't have to give a reason or defend their choice. And the school has an obligation to provide a good learning space for those children who do not take the test, give them a place to work or to read that is not in the classroom. I trust that the school district and hope the school district will share your clear opt-out policy so families and staff know how it will work. So that's the first part of my comment. The second is I'm concerned with how late in the year it is to be beginning the superintendent search. I'm confused by, since you knew that Jordana was leaving in September, why it's at this late date. And I'm concerned that we may not find a person who's a good match for the district. So I hope we can move with great dispatch on that. Thank you.
I didn't hear that, Chair Peretti, but we have Ann Valentine in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Anne, you have 3 minutes. State your name and the town you live in.
Hi, I'm Ann Valentine. I live in Hatfield, teach in Greenfield, and the president of the GEA union. My comments tonight are regarding the next year's calendar. As many of you know, the process of the calendar, the administration presents the union with the calendar. The calendar is then sent out to the membership to look at for comments or concerns, and then is returned back to the superintendent to then be discussed. So I had a wonderful conversation with the superintendent about the calendar. And I just wanted to bring forward some comments that some of the staff members had brought up that usually we don't have the opportunity to discuss in a public setting. One of the biggest comments that was brought forward was the half-day Wednesdays that we were able to utilize during COVID. Those half-day Wednesdays were primarily for team meetings, 504 meetings, collaboration, curriculum discussions. And a lot of staff thought that it would be really nice to be able to continue with the half-day Wednesdays next year for multiple reasons. Many of you might not know that when we have team meetings during the regular school year, the teacher is pulled out from the classroom and a para covers the teacher. So that disrupts the para's job. It disrupts the teacher's classroom. Without a doubt, some of these meetings can be quite lengthy, especially at the elementary school where we're doing initial evals. So to have these meetings set up on half-day Wednesdays would ultimately save the district money. We would not be paying the paras to go into the classroom, but we wouldn't be disrupting the classroom or disrupting the role of the para. So that was something that a lot of people said if it was possible to continue with the half-day Wednesdays. A long, long time ago, for those of you who have been around, we did have half-day Wednesdays, and it was used for curriculum collaboration. And on that point, there are some curriculums that are going to be put in place in the very near future. The elementary school, I understand, is going to be looking at a new ELA curriculum. And to do 1 day, full day PD in the middle of the year really is not a great way to roll out a new program. We rolled out a new math program at the height of the remote learning, and there's still a lot of learning to be done. So to be able to use the half-day Wednesdays, should that be something that you think about, would really be beneficial, again, instead of doing a 1 day PD day. The new curriculums that are going to be placed as in the middle school and the high school regarding racial, I'm pulling a blank on that, curriculum needs to be done more so than just 1 PD day or 2 PD days. So people thought if we could look at the half-day Wednesdays again. It was also brought up, what do we do with the children? Some of the children would go home, but some of the children could have an after-school program or half-day program that is actually executed by some of the local members, or some of the volunteers could be from the high school honor students who need volunteer hours for the Honor Society. So trying to come up with solutions. Oh, thank you. So one of the other suggestions that was brought up a lot was the later start time for the high school. A lot of the
Sorry, I was saying that was time.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, Anne. I appreciate your comments. Other indications of wanting to public comment in the chat?
Not seeing any.
All right, I'm not either. So anyone who would like to make a public comment that's on the phone line or otherwise connected to the meeting and not able to chat, please indicate now. Don't be shy. Going once, going twice. I'm not hearing anybody. Okay, so we're going to move on with the agenda. We have reports from the administration, starting with Mike Kaczewski for the athletics, the spring athletics proposal. Mike, are you here with us?
Excuse me, Chair Porietti.
Yes.
Excuse me, Chair Porietti.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm wondering if we do student reports first.
Oh, are the students here? Yes, are they here? Shane and Danny, are you here? Yeah, go ahead, guys. Take it away. We'll do the students first, and then Mike will come to you after.
First up, I have some student council updates. This council attended the MASC State Leadership Conference on April 9th and April 10th. Students attended 2 student-led workshops and a keynote speaker, and then later 17 students were able to meet in person for the closing ceremony, remote, of course. Also, Miracle Lero ran a workshop on the Moose Youth Awareness Program, and congrats to Grace Lantata for winning the Unsung Hero for the Western Mass Student Councils. I also had the final results for the Polar Plunge. GHS raised over $1,000, which is the most we've ever raised. We also came in 5th in the state for the number of participants. And then as a state organization, we raised over $80,000 for the Special Olympics. So thanks to all who participated.
That's great.
Yay!
This March, GHS Key Club presented the importance of being an upstander, which is someone who helps others and shows kindness, and trusted adults, who are adults that students can count on for assistance, and gave students the opportunity to celebrate them. Additionally, we held a very successful food drive to benefit the Center for Self-Reliance on Main Street. Many thanks to those who participated. In April, Key Club continues to promote Say Something Project, which is creating a more inclusive and supportive climate. Creating greetings for students who are returning in-person learning. Additionally, as we support the United Way Greenfield Kiwanis Club reading project, we have chosen the book I Was So Mad by Mercer Meyer, which invites conversations with young children about managing anger. Students at AEL, the Girls Club, and the YMCA preschools will be receiving a copy to bring home. Happy spring.
For GHS TV, the second edition by the Semester 2 GHS TV class is currently available online. And so you can check out the GHS website to read all of the great articles and watch great videos. And this is a great way to understand sort of the student perspective and just what students are interested in.
On Wednesday, March 31st, students, staff, families, and the community celebrated together one of GHS's favorite events, Taste of World Cultures. Thank you to everyone who contributed to the video, and especially Mesa Verde, Tito's Tacos, Big Y, Beijing House for their donations. If you missed that awesome event, you can still watch the YouTube video.
And then for sports. Fall 2 sports are in full swing, and football is off to a great start. It's currently 2-0. Boys and girls soccer have been competitive on the field and are both currently 2-1. And then volleyball has been having some good games, and they stand at 2-4. And tonight is their last away game, I'm pretty sure, of the season.
For those students in grades 8 and grades 9 through 12 who have never stepped foot in Greenfield High School, but will be returning to in-person learning, we're offering GHS tours. Student council will be providing quick tours of the building. A reminder that these tours are only for those students who are returning to in-person learning. They will be held on April 26th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. and Tuesday, April 27th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. A flyer with the details sent to students and families this week. That's all.
Both very much. The highlight of the meeting every time. Today was no different. Appreciate seeing you both. Hope we see you next month, and good luck to your return to school, however that looks for both of you. All right, now we're going to move on to athletics. And Coach Kacheski, I know you were here a second ago. I saw you. If you wouldn't mind giving us just an overview of what you're proposing for the spring sports.
Sure. I just want to thank the kids for putting out the athletic part of it. I hadn't updated it. Volleyball has on a winning streak, so they're, I believe, 500 right now. So, and Danny was right that they are. The last home away game was tonight, and their last home game will be next week. And also, before I do the polls, I want to thank GCTV Philippe. He's been phenomenal on doing all our live streaming for volleyball, and we haven't had the opportunity to live stream our outdoor sports, but he's been there taping them and putting them on the GCT TV YouTube so people can see him that way that can't go to the game. So I want to give a shout out to him. He's been awesome. And so yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm here again for the fourth time, asking for approval to continue our seasons, and I'm asking for spring sport.
Hey,
which will
Coach, hang
start
on for,
April
if I could
26th.
ask you to hang on for 1 second. I'm sorry. Is anyone else, is it really staticky? Are you having trouble hearing? Yeah, I'm not sure. Your audio, if there's anything you can do, it's kind of staticky, cutting in and out. I don't know. I couldn't tell if it was me or not, but it does appear that it's you.
Well, it is probably me because I have the same problem in Zoom meetings with Chromebooks, and that's all I'm working on.
Oh, and
So-
now it's gone. So just keep talking. Go ahead.
Okay, there you go. So for asking for spring is softball, baseball, girls track, boys track, girls tennis, and boys tennis, as it starts April 26th, and it continues to July 3rd if everybody makes the tournament. Same COVID protocols that we've been doing are going to continue. The visitor policy has been opened up by the EEA to now, instead of limiting just parents and siblings, we are now asking for, they're asking for no more than 150 for attendance in outdoor sports. As said before, our coaches also will take the COVID protocol course over the NFHS, and what masks will be worn by everybody, as far as fans and participants on and off the field. In baseball and softball, the dugouts will be extended, similar like they were done in hockey, and that is tennis is a little different. The singles tennis players will be allowed not to wear masks because they'll be across from each other. But when they are done with their mask, they have to put their masks on. If there's a doubles tennis, then they have to have the mask on. They will have their tennis balls marked accordingly, so it'll only be staying on one court. I'm not going to get too much into the modifications for each sport because we could be here forever, and I saved you from all the paperwork. This time, I believe I've sent 40 to 70 pages of paperwork before, so I saved you from that. If you're interested, I can send you the link of the modifications of each sport. And that's pretty much an overview, and any questions, I'll gladly take.
Awesome. Thank you for the overview. I appreciate that, and all of your work on this throughout this very strange academic year. I would like to take at this point, and then we can ask questions and have discussion, a motion to approve the spring sports athletic schedule as presented.
So moved.
That was Katie Karen,
Second.
and a second from Secretary Johnson Musad. Awesome. Any discussion or questions for Mike? I'll start with one. I just now noticed the date goes till, when you set it, to July 3rd. So that is beyond the end of the academic year. And normally students, don't they have, like, I'm remembering this from when I played sports, like you had to be in school the day that you participated. There's just, obviously they'll just be exempted from that.
Right. So what we came up with, our league schedule will be done by June 15th. If you make the tournament, we're going to have a sectional tournament from June 15th to June, I think, approximately 21st, 22nd, something like that. That has happened in the past. It is about the end of the state tournament is usually at the last weekend in June. Usually they extended it because the MIA, and I'm not going to get into this, we voted against it out in the Central and West. The East had more votes, and they wanted a state tournament. We wanted to end around the 22nd and 23rd, but that didn't happen, so I had to put in the July 3rd date. That's if we make the state tournament.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. Any other questions or discussion? All right, let's move it to a vote then. Secretary Johnson Musad, a roll call, please.
Yes. Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall,
Yes.
Mayor Weidergardner.
I don't think she's here.
Oh, that's right. She's there. Sorry.
And the motion carries, correct?
Yep. Sorry, I'm got a little headache here, so I'm a little off my game tonight.
That's fine. Awesome. Thanks, Coach, for all you're doing. See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Thanks for coming
Appreciate it.
tonight. All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
Enjoy the evening. Thank you, everyone.
We always enjoy our school committee meetings. Okay, so we'll move on. Report from Andy, the business manager. Andy Paquette, are you with us?
He is not here this evening. I am pinch hitting. So
Oh, okay. Okay, so in the materials for tonight, we do have the typical business reports, and I will open it up if anyone has any questions about anything from the business manager. Member Hollins, are you raising your hand because you want to ask a question? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. I would appreciate if the budget subcommittee, when it meets, could clarify the TMS bills. I read through them in the last warrant and I was confused by them vis-a-vis our votes. So I don't really have a question for this meeting, but I would appreciate that they be reviewed so I can understand them. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Any other discussion or questions? I'm not hearing any, so that was quick and easy. Unless, Dr. Houle, did you have anything you wanted to bring to our attention or anything like that?
no, just our
Awesome.
Paquette and I just wanted to make sure that you know that the bottom line is looking good, and that we're now thinking about in the final home stretch of the fiscal year, expending the remainder of the budget. There are some budget transfers that I think were talked about back in October that Mr. Paquette would like to be able to refresh the list now
Sure.
that we've had more spending and get that out to you. So that's on the radar screen for us to take care of. So.
Okay, great. So we could probably do that at the May meeting? Yeah, okay,
Sure.
great. Awesome, thank you. So we'll move into reports from the superintendent. And I have to say, Dr. Houle, before you begin, I am enjoying the reorganization of the agenda. This is very nice. So thank you to you and Lauren or whoever put it together. I like this format.
It's the OCD in me. It's
You didn't-
all phrasing.
You didn't even have to own up to that. You could have just said thank you.
That's okay.
It plays well with mine.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to share my screen.
Hold on, Susan's got a question.
Oh, sorry.
Member Hollins, you have a
And
question?
I'm sorry to,
No.
Oh,
No.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I have on my agenda the Sanderson Street project, which precedes this agenda item.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think there's been an updated agenda since then, Susan, and we had to delay that to
Okay.
May because of the Ways and Means meeting that is happening tonight.
Got it.
Required the attendance of Marla Warner, the DPW director, who is going to speak to that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Updated agenda. Sorry to interrupt.
Would you want me to email you the updated agenda? I can do that right now. Dr. Houle, why don't you go ahead?
Included in the, yes.
It could be. Dr. Houle, you go ahead and I'll make sure she has what she needs.
Okay, great. Thank you. So just to kind of give you an update as to where we are, I'm going to start with the return to in-person learning. As you all know, in-person learning began for our pre-K through 4 students on April 5th. I was out in front of Federal Street School playing crossing guard because we didn't have one that day. So my yellow vest and my stop sign were out there, and kids were really excited to be coming back to school. And I did notice quite a few parents smiling as they drove off knowing that their kids were in good hands. The schools were extremely organized about, you know, how things have been going. And really, we've had very few, couple of little glitches, but nothing spectacular at all to report. So just pleased. It took a lot of effort on the part of a lot of people to make this work, and I just am really grateful for everybody's hard work to make this happen. April 28th, we will have the start of in-person learning for our students in grades 5 through 12. At this point, the commissioner has allowed parents to make a choice for their students to be able to remain remote should they so choose for the remainder of this school year. So that's something that parents have actually taken advantage of. Depending on the school building, our current average of students who are not participating in person at the elementary level ranges between about 10 and 13%, and it's around 25% at the middle and high school levels. But sometimes when the kids come back, there seems to be increased interest on the part of some staying remote, being able to come in and be with their peers. Protocols are fully in place, particularly around the daily four, wearing masks, staying apart. You know, desks are arranged so that personal space is definitely 6 feet apart. Where it's necessary, there are one-way hallways. There are stickers on the floor to help guide people to remind them to stay 6 feet apart from each other. The last of the air purifiers came in today. Yay. And so those will be distributed to the middle and high schools so that all of the classrooms that need them will be covered by them. We've had some that look like refrigerators. They are ginormous for our larger spaces so that we've got some good air purification going on in all of the places that need to have that happening. We're also just wanting to remind families, and I'm going to take this opportunity of a couple of things to be able to remind families that, first of all, if your child is not feeling well or is exhibiting any symptoms, whether they are COVID or not, that we're asking that parents keep your children home and just be careful about sending children to school sick because we are taking symptoms very seriously, and so we want to make sure that everybody's healthy. Also, the pooled testing seems to be going well at all of our school sites. And again, just encouraging families and staff to take advantage of the pooled testing opportunity. It is 10 seconds and pretty painless. I've done it every week since it started. The governor has just announced funding that will be in place for pooled testing through August 31st, which would also cover any summer programming that we have. So our nursing staff was putting in an application, which is due on Friday. They were putting it in today to be able to make sure that those things were happening. I'm also getting some sort of strange audio-ness on my end. I don't know.
I'm not hearing anything. You sound fine. I'm not hearing anything.
Okay.
Like someone scratching. If people can mute if you're not speaking, that would be
I'll
helpful.
go through and mute folks too.
Okay. The middle school is planning an orientation evening on April 26th for fifth graders coming into the building so that there will be a tour of the building and some physically distant outdoor activities. We're gonna pray for good weather and so that can happen, but so that fifth graders can get used to their new environment. And as you heard our two student representatives talk about both grade 8 and anybody new to GHS, there will also be tours for families on April 26th and 27th. So we're really trying to make the return to in-person learning as comfortable as we can for everybody. MCAS update. The commissioner has got several recommendations that he is putting forward to the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I did give the committee a memo with regard to some of these issues and around the MCAS thing, and I'm just going to try and get some additional notes because the commissioner held a call today with the superintendents and added some information that is sort of hot off the press here. But first of all, he is recommending to the state board at their April meeting that the requirement to graduate, the MCAS as a requirement to graduate will be removed for students in grade 11. If you recall, they did not take the MCAS at grade 10, and it is a requirement for graduation. So it was originally thought that grade 11, they would have to take the MCAS. He is recommending the removal of that requirement for grade 11, but is also saying that any juniors and seniors who want to take the exam for the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship or the Koplik Scholarship can certainly take the exams to do that for those purposes. The tests have been adjusted for timing and scheduling in grades 3 through 8. The test window is going to be from May 10th through June 11th. For the older students, it's going to be like May 17th through June 11th. There will be shorter duration. There will be an opportunity to provide remote access, remote administration for remote learners. And the clarification we got on that today was that that's going to be for grades 3 through 8 only. That grade 10 children, that those tests will be required to be held in person, even if the student is remote. So that's going to put a little bit of a wrinkle in how we schedule students for testing at the grade 10 level, and that was something we found out at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And there is not an opt-out for grade 10. It will be a graduation requirement. So that's something that, I know that it was mentioned earlier about parents making that choice to opt out. Massachusetts doesn't necessarily provide for that, but certainly parents can exercise that choice, but they need to understand that the grade 10 requirement for MCAS in order to graduate will hold. They're looking for accountability relief to districts to hold harmless back to the 2019 data, and then they would begin again in the 21-22 school year, which just means that if your test results indicate a negative place instead of a positive place of growth, they're not going to make the accountability status any worse. They'll hold you harmless on that. So those are the things that we learned this afternoon in terms of all of that. There's some discussion about how they will report the data out to the districts, whether or not remote learners will be separated, or those who have a remote administration will be separated in the data sets from those who are in person, or if they'll be reported together. Those are things they still have yet to work out at the state level. There's been a lot of federal and state legislative advocacy, as you well know that there are two sets of requirements. One comes from the federal government in terms of the Every Student Succeeds Act, and that state testing is a requirement on that, as well as the requirements for testing within state law, including the grade 10 to be able to have to pass the MCAS in order to graduate. MASS has done some things, MASC, MTA, AFT. Several of us have sent letters to both our local and federal legislators, and I think I put some copies of letters that were sent to our congressional delegation that superintendents across the state have been sending. So I did receive replies via email from the staffers of all of the congressional delegation to whom I sent those letters. So at least we know that those letters are being seen and read, but this is still a pretty thorny, situation. And I, for one, am not a fan of this idea. I don't think it's the right thing to do at this particular time to students who have been out of school for so very long, who are now coming back into school, who have had to deal with the negative effects of a pandemic. But obviously, we have to comply with what is expected of us. So that's the MCAS situation. And then I just wanted to share some upcoming dates with you as a committee, so you can certainly think about some things. On April 27th at 5:30 p.m., there will be a presentation of the FY22 budget with the City Ways and Means Committee, so I will be attending that and giving that presentation. May 26th through 28th are senior final exams. June 1st is a graduation rehearsal and a celebration. The commissioner has also put out guidance that proms are not to be held because of the risk of transmission. So Principal Patnode has come up with a brilliant idea of having a senior celebration right after graduation rehearsal with food trucks and all the festivities therein. So I think that'll be a fun activity for our graduating seniors. And then the senior scholarship night will be held on June 2nd at 6 o'clock. That will be a virtual event. And then on June 5th at 10 a.m. will be graduation. It is going to be held on Veterans Field, following all of the requisite protocols for COVID-19, including having tickets, limited number of tickets, and keeping the audience down. Those details have been worked out with the Board of Health. The rain date for that activity will be June 6th at noon, and then June 18th is the last day of school. Who would have thought we'd be talking about the last day of school, but we are absolutely doing that. So that's where we're at right now with all of that stuff. So I just wanted to share that little bit of information on those items with you.
Dr. Houle. Questions, discussion? Secretary Johnson-Musa, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Dr. Houle, can you give an update on what's happening with our communication to our state legislative body? We voted in, let's see, I think it was back in February about communication to them, and I've been working with you. There's an email thread with you, me, and Justin on it. I don't know. I know it's been happening in the midst of reopening, so I don't know if there's much progress to report on that, but.
There isn't, to be honest, again, because we have been wholly and solely consumed with getting buildings reopened. So certainly I do know that the legislature has been pretty much focused on budget. My understanding is that the House Ways and Means Committee has put forward a budget today. I have not had a chance to take a look at what that looks like in terms of Chapter 70 and those things that we're looking at moving forward. So I think their legislative agenda has been really dealing with COVID-19 and trying to get a budget starting to get through the pipeline. So we will certainly pick up on that letter to the state reps as well.
About the MCAS, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other discussion, questions?
This is Member Karen. I have a question.
Member Karen, go ahead.
Could you do me a favor and go over the schedule for the high school and middle school of drop-off? Just what time it starts, what time they have to be there by. I'm getting a lot of public questions.
Sure.
And so it would be helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Again, just being mindful of the fact that we need to be able to allow teachers to get in and get settled before students are dropped off, and looking at the scheduling. Drop off for the high school will be at 7:10. We will not be able to receive students before that time. And then drop off at the middle school will be at 7:45. So again, that gives the buses time to do their runs and all of that at that business. The high school.
What time will they be considered late? That's, I guess, the really important part.
I think we're going to be a little flexible with that out of the gate, depending on how long it takes to get everybody in the door, because it won't be as gradual a process as it has been in the past. So I think that it's going to take us some time to be able to figure all of that out in terms of, when we're going to figure that students will be late. So I would say to parents, just know that the schools are going to be flexible, particularly for those first few days until we get things settled, and then we can get some more specific information out to folks from there.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Member Ekstrom. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm curious, is there, regarding start time just in general for the high school, is there a reason that it's starting that early as opposed to starting later? Because as Anne pointed out, there have been a number of studies that demonstrate that high school students would do better with a later start time. My guess is that it's going to be centered around transportation more than anything else, but that's I'm curious about that because to me it seems like a viable idea to have them start later and consequently finish later. I don't have any problems with that. So anyway, if you would.
Sure. I think that this is an issue that takes a lot of thought and input from the community, so it's not necessarily something you can turn on a dime. Those communities that have done that work, it has been probably a good year-long process of gathering input, thinking, planning. In many cases in families, the older siblings are responsible for childcare with two working parents. And so if the younger child comes home before the older child does, what happens then? There are some really broad implications community-wide for making this kind of decision. So I think it's something that, I would say moving forward, that certainly would be a process to begin a good lengthy discussion around, maybe not for this upcoming, the end of this school year or even next school year, but to think about maybe for 22, 23. Because it does take a lot of planning and thought.
My recollection is that at our last in-person school committee meeting, which I believe was it March of 2020, we put together a academic calendar task force that we've done nothing with. So we may want to pick that back up when we're less preoccupied with the changes in the current academic calendar. But thank you for that. Member Hollins, you're raising your hand. Do you have a comment, question?
Yes. On that subject, I think if you can check, it's been studied a few times in the last decade. And what comes up often, the obstacles have been identified. And I'm not sure solutions have been found, but my recollection is the solution has to be kind of regional, not just one school at a time, because there's so many interconnections. We have double loop bus routes and all the sports programs and after school things. But I think the obstacles to switching have come up before and have been studied before. So that might help inform a new look. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hollins. Other questions or comments? I am not hearing any. Okay, so we can move on, I think, it sounds like, to the legal counsel item for special education. We have something in the materials for tonight regarding legal counsel. Dr. Well, I don't know if you need to give us any context here. It seemed pretty self-explanatory. We don't currently have them assigned or anyone, correct? So we need to do that.
Yeah, and when I spoke with Russell and Adam about this particular topic, they asked about whether or not we wanted to use a retainer versus an hourly rate, and because I'm new here as well as their new legal counsel to us, we don't really have a good sense of history of how much legal time has been spent in the past. So we thought the best way to do this out of the gate would be to use the hourly fee while Andy and I work on taking a look at how much time has been spent on legal matters in the past and have a sense of what that is, and then can bring forth a recommendation if it makes better financial sense to then change this into a bulk retainer and only have an hourly fee should you have to go in front of the Bureau of Special Education Appeals for a case or something like that. So we just thought this would be a fairly easy solution out of the gate to do, and then do some more studies so that we know whether this is the less expensive way to do it or if an annual retainer is better.
Thank you for that. And let's start with a motion. I would entertain a motion to approve the retainer agreement between the Greenfield Public Schools and the Duperret Law Offices as presented in the materials. Don't all speak at once.
So moved.
Member Ekstrom, and a second?
Second.
Second from Member Wall. Discussion, comment, questions?
Yep, I have a question.
Member Ekstrom, go ahead.
It's more related to how it is you guys are determining what our needs are. I assume that you've spoken with Janet about this, and she's talked to you a number of times about things that have gone on or not. I know that in the past that we have used an attorney that the collaborative works with, and I don't know, Janet obviously would know more about how that relationship works than I would, but it's the collaborative contracts or has an agreement with a firm that's in Boston that is fairly substantial. And by being part of the collaborative, my understanding is that we get a discounted rate, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it may be worth pursuing that a little bit as well. I don't know, only because they would have an even larger view of things that are going on outside of just Western Mass. And that's just wanted to mention that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And just so that the committee is aware, the Duperets do represent about 70 districts, and they represent 70 districts across the state, from the
sure.
Berkshires out to the South Shore. So
yeah, I'm sure.
Member Hollins, go ahead. You're on mute.
What I wanted to say is the records of Peter Smith over the years who handled special student cases were annotated, and you couldn't identify the students, but you could identify the situation. And he did it to the quarter of an hour, and sometimes his bills were 3 and 4 pages long, so the ability to go back and see how many cases we had in a year that required special attention and what it cost is there. Maybe that exercise should happen first before there's a financial decision made on how to handle it. Maybe it's another situation for the Finance Budget Committee to look at, but I don't know that. I just want you to know that we have very well documented records of it.
Thank you, Member Hollins. Other questions, discussion?
just in response to Member Hollins, that is exactly the work that we are going to do without retaining somebody right at the moment. It means you have no legal representation for special education, and that's of concern to me.
And we do have something in the proposed retainer that allows us to cancel on basically a month-to-month basis on this.
Correct.
Okay. Further questions, further discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad, yes. Chair Prayati,
Yes.
Member Wall,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. And the next item is the 2021-2022 academic year calendar. I deal with a lot of talking about academic years in my job, and this is the hardest academic year I've ever had to actually say out loud. 2021-2022 does not roll off the tongue. Let's talk about the calendar, though.
Sure. As Ms. Valentine mentioned earlier in public comment, I did meet with her with regard to the calendar and did take the input of the GEA into finalizing this. Just so you know that it was also asked by the administration to take a look at as well, that this calendar does assume a return to full in-person learning in the fall. That is, the commissioner has said that repeatedly, that is the goal in all of this, is getting people back this spring with the understanding that we are fully in person come the 21-22 school year. So that's how this calendar was put together. We did take a look at the request of the association to have the Wednesday half days. And the problem with that is that particularly at the secondary level, we cannot meet the 990 hours of structured learning time that is required. So that's why we did not include those Wednesday half days. Conceptually, certainly I agree with that whole process that, you know, teachers need time, that teachers don't have enough time to do some of the underlying work. And some of what you brought me in to do was to take a look at curriculum work and that kind of thing. And there's a lot to do in that department. And so, you know, doing a little bit here and a little bit there is not the best way to do this kind of work. But right now, again, we are dealing with a regulation that we have to comply with, and so that's why we could not do the Wednesday half days. So it's a pretty standard calendar based on full in-person learning with, you know, the dates that you can see of, you know, the first day of school being on Wednesday, September 1st, and then the last day of school, barring no snow days, would be June 14th. Or some other date thereafter. And, you know, when I'm listening to weathercasters talking about Friday morning, I'm thinking to myself, you know, June 18th is supposed to be the last day of school. So, barring a blizzard, you know, let's hope we can come to school on Friday because I certainly don't want to hang this up yet another day. So, so that's how the calendar was put together with some input from the GEA, from the administration, and also taking a look at what we are required to do for structured learning time.
And I am correct that you are looking for a vote of approval from us on this tonight? Yes.
Correct.
So I would, at this point, entertain a motion to approve the 2021-2022 academic year calendar as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So I heard Secretary Johnson Musad, and I believe that Vice Chair Ekstrom was the second. Further hold on. Point of personal privilege. I'm putting Joe to bed. I'll be back in 15 minutes. Remember, Vice Chair Ekstrom and Secretary Johnson Musad, if necessary, please continue.
Okay. So actually, I have a question. And I'm sure it's sort of a moot point, but how is it that we are able for the high school to meet their academic requirements this year, having half day Wednesday, but we wouldn't be able to do that next year?
Basically, the commissioner, when school started and there were the 10 days ahead of time for teachers, the amount of days that were required to be in school was shortened. Ergo, the number of hours that were required to be in school were also shortened.
Okay.
Those regulations are now coming off the books and we're going back to the original set.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any further questions, comments, thoughts?
This is Member Karen.
Go ahead.
This would probably be a good, you know, to the task force question. But when I grew up in Greenfield, the elementary schools had half days, but the upper grades didn't because of these same time restrictions. And one of the points that Ann Valentine made and is valid is that a lot of our IEP meetings and 504 meetings originate in elementary school, and so they take longer time to accomplish. Is that would that work for their time? I'm not thinking it's a good change for next year, but you know, sending to the task force to evaluate, would that work for their time on learning or no?
It's pretty close. They would meet it, but it's pretty close. If you had a lot of delayed opening days or early dismissal days, you could wind up in trouble weather-wise. So, does that influence a decision around a snow day if you think you're going to run into structured learning time problems? Oh, so I'm not going to send kids to school, ergo delay school and, delay the closure of school by another day because I have to think about structured learning time. So it would be close, and then it could have that sort of ripple effect. So I agree, it's something to certainly look at in the future and think about. But I think it would take some creative problem solving on the parts of all the folks concerned to think about how we'd address that.
Great, thank you.
Looks like we lost Vice Chair Ekstrom.
No, my apologies. There's of course action happening here as always. Are there any further questions related to this? Okay, then I suspect that we can take a roll call vote. Member Johnson-Musad, or Secretary Johnson-Musad, if you would.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson-Musad, yes. Chair Prayati, I guess, is away. Member Wall,
Yes.
motion carries.
Wonderful. So, Superintendent, I believe that closes your reports to us for the evening. Well done and congratulations. Committee reports. The chair's report, with the chair having to step away briefly, is probably not going to do her report currently. Subcommittees, subcommittee meetings schedule. Superintendent, do you have more insight as to what this topic was related to?
Sure. At the last meeting, we had a discussion about putting a moratorium on subcommittee meetings for the sake of your superintendent who was running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Still is, but starting to come up for air periodically. So the discussion was about how, what the work of the committee is and what the work of your subcommittees is and what are things that need to be looked at, and to come up with some sort of schedule knowing the workload. I did include a memo with some of your information, just some thoughts about from where I sit as to the work of the committee at this particular juncture in time. There are several things that are on your plate right now. There are 4 collective bargaining agreements that need negotiating, and so we're going to require a fair amount of time on the part of people who are in those subcommittees to work through. Periodically, as proposals are going back and forth between the parties, some of that stuff needs to come in front of the full school committee as well. So again, just trying to kind of lay out an overview of where things are. The superintendent search process, which Member Wall, I think, has an update on as well, is going to get underway pretty quickly. I don't know, Member Wall, if you want to speak to that right now.
Do you want to go ahead with the brochure or just talk about it? Okay. Do you have the brochure that we could screen share? I sent it to you just before the meeting started.
Okay, hold on and let me see if I can find that email. Ah, there it is. All right. Let me share that screen right now. And do I see Tracy on?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I don't know if you and Tracy want to speak to this together, but there it is. Tell me what I need to do and when I need to do it.
Well, I'll let Tracy present it since, if you want to, Tracy.
Sure. We're actually, and I'm actually just chatting with Liz. As you guys know, she's actually finishing up in Pittsfield right now. So she may be hopping on momentarily as well. But this is designed to take you through the different parts of the what's needed in order for you to have well-informed applicants. So the opening section, of course, is sort of the grabber, right, which is the nice photo of the kids along with the logo of the district. The first part talks about the qualifications that you're looking for applicants. Some of these, of course, are fairly standard, of eligible for licensure, master's degree preferred, master's degree required, advanced degree preferred, and so forth through the minimum standards in terms of service. This does have the language in here that has been worked through of superior communication skills, written, verbal, and interpersonal, knowledge of how a municipal public school district functions in Massachusetts, including an understanding of the roles of the school committee, superintendent, and school administration, and then strong organizational communication, public relations, and interpersonal skills. Generally, from sort of our perspective on the search end, this language is kind of the crux really of the brochure. One thing I do need from you all this evening is that next section. You'll notice that there's a blank there in terms of what you want to have posted for salary. It does always say length of contract and fringe benefits are negotiable depending on qualifications and experience. So we're looking really for a range here from you all tonight. And then the note as to how the superintendent reports to the school committee. And then really the rest of the brochure gives an outline first of both the district and the city of Greenfield, its location and so forth. This is really where you kind of sell yourselves. And thus you get the lovely photographs. Good job to those of you who looked for them. I always appreciate, I find that actually does a decent job of selling things. And then that next section here does have a fairly lengthy list of the qualities of what you're looking for in a superintendent for Greenfield. So I won't read it aloud to all of you, but it does effectively give a list of both attributes and experiences, priorities and so forth that you would be looking for in the next superintendent of the schools. And then the last page gives again another sort of picture of the district, this time really in sort of very bulleted kind of information. What are the sort of details of the school district? What are the positions within the administration? Names of the school committee, and then of course the timeline for that you're going to be walking through in order to get yourself to appointing a superintendent in early July. So from my perspective, the one thing I definitely need is salary, but this is open to this is for you to approve, for then us to post on your behalf, so that you can make sure that effectively that this says what you need it to at this point.
One thing that I do want to point out is that these pictures of children are pictures from the computers. We don't have any pictures of children in Greenfield. And I wanted to make sure that, can we get pictures of children that can be used in a public forum? Or do we want to use buildings? That's the thing we have to decide on this brochure too.
Well, I know that as a parent, I have to sign paperwork that says either I'm willing or not willing to allow images of my children to be used in whatever format. So as long as, and Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that as long as someone has agreed that yes, that is acceptable, those images could be used in this brochure.
That's correct. That's correct.
And where would we go to find pictures of children?
Well, I'll take a shot and say you could contact the principals because they would have various pictures. Like the high school would certainly, the yearbook would have pictures. But again, I'm just spitballing. Judy probably has a better idea.
I'd say probably that's the best place, and I'd be happy to reach out to the principals for some images that could be used.
Okay. That would be great.
I have a couple little things that I kind of caught in the copy that might be or worth correcting. One is it lists the way the school actually staggered 4-year terms. And then my name has changed since this was put together, so it's Johnson Usad now and not Glenn Johnson.
Okay. So 4-year terms.
I'm not certain. Well, yeah, actually, that is true.
If it's standard to put the mayor's name first, I don't know.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Is there anybody on the committee that needs me to scroll to a certain place?
I guess another question about pictures is, I don't know that the pictures that we have on file will come across as like professional quality and how important or not important that is. Is it standard for schools to use just pictures that are taken of events and things like that, or informally in their documentation? Thank you.
So if they have photos of people, they usually are photos that are of the district. I will say that it's not entirely uncommon for us to have brochures that don't have photos of people, that focus on, as you know, if you saw elsewhere, photos of the schools, photos of, certainly there's plenty that's picturesque about Greenfield, those kinds of photos, particularly in the community profile section. So that is, in general, I would say that tends to be how the brochures come together, that if there are, having, for example, professional quality photographs of this sort that are sort of close-ups of individual children is, I think, fairly unusual among school districts, in my experience.
That was just a request that the mayor made, is that she wanted to see pictures of children. And
well, and I think it looks great, but yeah.
But there is just a little obstacle there. There is a picture from Greenfield High School in here toward the end of children that are dancing. Down at the bottom. Those are from Greenfield. But the rest of them are just from Photoshop or wherever you go to get photos.
It's not difficult to get a cute picture of kids that are in grade school.
Okay, well, we'll just wait and see.
They all look so sweet when they're that young. I mean, it's hard to get a bad picture.
And I would suggest that we not use pictures of children with masks if we've got old pictures.
Yeah, I'll check with the principals on that for you.
Okay.
This is Chair Parady. I'm back, and I remembered that there is an offer from the Recreation Department. Greenfield Rec has a number of stock photos of our children doing fun things and after-school programs and summer programs and camps and whatnot that they have offered to our use if we wanted to connect with Christy Moore to get those. I think that could be useful. I like how it looks now, and I don't think it matters all that much that they're not our students in those pictures, with the exception, the last page is great, but I'm not that concerned about it. I don't think this, the brochure doesn't really have a long shelf life, I would imagine. People kind of take it and then leave it. It's not,
To me, it's the fluff of this whole process, just to get people in love with Greenfield and applying.
Yeah. So where are we at with this? Did we do a motion before I came back on?
No.
To approve?
We were just doing an initial look.
Okay. Further discussion? Further questions?
Just so you're aware, Madam Chair, that Tracy is looking for a salary range so she can fill in that blank.
Thank you. So I feel like we had that number from Liz. I want to say it was, you're looking for a range, Tracy? Is that what? Okay.
Right.
So I believe that we were starting at 162 to 175 or something like that.
We were?
Who said that?
Collins.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. We have to start at the top end of the range that was used for Superintendent Harper was the recommendation, and I believe that's the range there. Can we clarify that and get more information or get that number to you tomorrow? I just don't have it right handy.
I would say
Unless,
that
Jane,
you probably
Go
want to
ahead.
vote it. Would be my recommendation. You probably want this to be a
Sure. Good point.
committee decision.
Thank you. Jean, do you have that figure somewhere? I know we talked about it with her, but I don't. Yeah, I would have to dig through. Yeah, I would have to dig through my stuff to find it. Dr. Houle, is that something you would want to make a recommendation on? Do you have any I don't think you were a part of those discussions, but
I was,
no.
yeah, I was not. Quality superintendents.
Yep.
Are hard to come by, and there is an old saying that says you get what you pay for. So if you want a good quality, experienced candidate, you want to make sure that you're offering a salary that would be commensurate with getting someone who is going to be able to do for you what you need them to do.
Sure. Well said. Other comments on this specifically from committee members?
Yes, me please.
Ekstrom, Vice Chair Ekstrom, go ahead.
So I want to say out loud to everyone, when I first heard the range that we were talking about, it was a bit of a sticker shock for myself as well. However, we want to remain competitive with our with the other schools that are looking as well, and that truly is the sort of the going rate right now. So to have a knee-jerk reaction that is sort of sticker shocky is not unheard of by any means, but it sort of is what it is, unfortunately. Hopefully we all know what I mean. Not unfortunately, but it's the price that has to be paid for someone who will do the position well.
And that range, 162 to 175, 162 to 172, do you feel that is on target? How do you feel about that?
Who are you asking?
Tracy.
Well, I was hoping Vice Chair Ekstrom had an opinion on that specifically.
I think that we will probably have a decent pool of candidates, and I'm hoping that there's, as I've been saying all along, I think we have a real opportunity here to attract someone who would work in a larger district or in a city. And because of COVID and people wanting to move out, that this may be the opportunity for us to grab someone who's interested in making a location change as well as lifestyle change to take this position. That's my hope.
Okay. Other, please, Secretary Johnson-Boussard, go ahead.
Just concerned, I guess I'm feeling like as a school committee member, I don't think I have the information to be able to vote tonight on a salary range for the superintendent. I mean, it just seems like we don't have the information in front of us. I don't know how I could vote on something without some kind of documentation about what's been done in the past or comps to other districts. I mean, I can't just go, 162 to 175 sounds fine. It sounds, I think I need more information.
I think that's fair. I think that's a very fair point. I totally respect that. Member Hollins, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Please be vocal because you're not always on my screen. Just say what you need to say. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. I have two comments. One is some of the advertisements for positions say competitive salary and they don't put an exact number. And we could move ahead by doing that. And I agree with Glenn, I don't have any comparative information of what superintendents are making in our region where we are competitive. I'm not against anything. I just don't have any comparative information. The other point I want to make is in the brochure, there's two things that concern me. One is there's a really large paragraph about something. I just question the writing style of a huge paragraph of information and the readability of it. And there's a comment, I made this comment before, that in the basic needs, where you're talking about the basic requirements and understanding of the roles of superintendents, school committees in a municipal district. I said before, I'll say again, I don't think that's essential. The roles of school committees, superintendents are the same under the law, no matter what kind of district, and you're going to limit yourself in who applies because there are very few municipal districts in the state. I think more important than that, and when you get here, you learn that you don't go to the town for the budget, you go to the city council for the budget, but otherwise your role is the same under the law. What I think is really important here, if you're going to pick something, is the understanding of grants, because we have unusual grants that every district doesn't have, and revolving funds. So I just want to say, I don't think awareness of the fact that we're just somewhere in the text needs to say we're a small city. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion from school committee members?
This is Member Karen.
Member Karen, go ahead.
I'm feeling the same way about the salary range. Like, I swear I just saw something that listed out competitive wages, and now I can't seem to find it in my email. So maybe I had a dream about it, which is just scary. But it just makes me uncomfortable on something that I don't have a lot of information about. But I also feel that we need to move forward, and we need to move forward soon. And so I'd like to hear from Tracy, or if Liz has joined us, I'd love to hear about what are the downfalls of just listing competitive wages? Does it make us look like we're going to ask you to do a $150,000 job for $20,000? Or what are the downfalls of doing that so that we could just move forward? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Karen. It looks like, hi, Liz. It does look like Liz has joined us. Liz or Tracy, do either of you have suggestions? We're discussing, we're not prepared in terms of the research that our school committee members expect around putting a salary range into the brochure. So wording that would avoid that, and whether or not that is that's a negative if we just say something like a competitive salary, something like that, instead of actually listing it.
So I'll jump in here, and I would imagine Tracy has some thoughts on this as well. Thanks, Tracy, for coming here for me while I was finishing up somewhere else. Tracy did, when I told her I was checking in, send me the number that was put out. And I will tell you that you will attract some quality candidates with that number. And it is not unheard of that you say competitive salary and benefit package to be negotiated, but it's not as attractive as saying a salary range. It's not as clear to candidates. And superintendents, understanding the work that superintendents do in this atmosphere, you're putting a competitive salary range out there.
So you're saying that something like a range of 162 to 172 or 175 or what have you would attract quality candidates and is in line with what candidates would be expecting?
So what I want to say is that if you looked at current salaries across the region now, you would find a range that where you fall in somewhere in the top end with that. However, I would say that every time a superintendent leaves a district, that is when you see the opportunity and the desire to draw quality candidates to your district, where you'll see that kind of a bump in the salary. It is very.
And that's what I was recalling is you and Jean and I met about this, and we talked about the salary for this academic year or this contract year for former Superintendent Harper, and you had said, okay, you need to start at the top of where she's at now. You would need to start at that end. I think you put it more eloquently than I just did, but that's that's how we talked about it, which is why I'm remembering that number. But I do think it's very fair. I'm hearing that our members are not going to vote tonight to put a salary range in there without having some additional information. And I also have heard that they want to go forward with this as being approved. So I think what we should do is, I guess I would look at this point for maybe a motion from a school committee member on how we want to handle the wording in this part of the brochure, if anyone has any ideas.
Amy, may I say one more thing?
Please, go ahead.
And because I know we've had discussions about this a lot as a team at MASC, getting an accurate survey of current superintendent salaries is not an easy thing to do. It exists somewhere with one of our sister organizations, I guess. Can we call that a sister organization? Competitive, or like MASS has it. I don't know how easy it is to actually get your hands on it.
Okay.
I am looking as we speak.
Thank you, Dr.
Reminder,
she'd have it in.
Mute if you're not speaking. We're hearing a scratching noise like someone's filing their nails or something. So,
sure. Member Hollins, go ahead.
I want to say that even the salary, even if you can find it, it doesn't really show the fair comparison because there's so many different benefits that people stick in. Some people have an annuity, some people have a retirement benefit, some people get long-term health insurance, some people get travel allowances. So you could have, a difference of 10 to 25,000 per district, even at the same salary in terms of what they put in. I do think around 150 is probably the minimum of what you want on a salary range because you've been paying that in Greenfield for a while. But if you put whatever is proposed now and you don't get the really experienced superintendent and, that's not who's in the talent pool and then you're bringing somebody in at an experienced rate. So maybe you want to drop it down to like 150 to 175 negotiable multi-year contract, something like that. But I don't think we should hold up anymore getting this brochure.
Agreed. Do you want to make a motion, Member Hollins, based on what you just said?
I've advertised on the MES.
Member Hollins appears to be having internet trouble, right? It's not me. You all can still hear me? Yes? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion related to salary and contract wording in the brochure?
I'll make a motion that we have the salary information read competitive salaries.
I think it's crucial that we take Liz's advice and put a number. And I think it's also crucial that we go ahead and get something out because
Point of order, could the chair find out if there's a second for my motion?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Good point, Glenn. Thank you.
Yep, I'll second it.
I don't know who that is. Is that Member Ekstrom?
Yep.
Okay. So, Jean, go ahead and say that again.
The job can't be posted until we get this brochure completed.
Right.
So the community is very anxious about getting this job search started. So I kind of think we should take the experts' advice and perhaps use, if you don't want to do that, use Susan's Collins suggestion, but at least have a salary range on there.
Is it too big of a range to say 150 to 175 as the range? Is that too big? I would think that's too large of a range.
I wouldn't go as low as 50. I'd say 155.
Okay.
This is member Karen. I was gonna say I'd do 155 to 170 or 172. I don't know why that $5,000 makes me feel more comfortable. It's very silly. Because
it's not silly if that's how you feel.
I don't know why, but I would feel comfortable of like 155 to 172 or even 175, and then it just gives us more play and like a lot of things we've done in Greenfield with contracts is work out ways to give our employees wonderful benefits that didn't always exactly mean $1, and I think that that's one of our good qualities. But I don't want to. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I have to say.
I can withdraw my motion if someone wants to put forward a motion with a specific range.
Thank you, Member Johnson-Musad. Go ahead, Member Hollins.
An experienced superintendent will anticipate being at the top of your range, so they won't anticipate you're going to offer them the lower part of your range, I think.
Okay, so I will try Secretary Johnson-Musad, you're willing to withdraw your motion?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's try, thank you. Let's try a motion that reads salary in the range of 155 to 172. Length of contract and fringe benefits are negotiable depending upon qualifications and experience. Anyone want to move
I'll take that motion.
Okay, and a second. That was Member Ekstrom, and a second.
Second, Member Karen.
Member Karen with the second. Discussion.
I just have a question. Why is it 172 and not 175? That was the recommendation for the top end.
That was just my motion. We can make it 175. I'll take a friendly amendment. That's fine.
I just am wondering. It's so specific.
155 to 175. You like better? I see Member Wall nodding her head. Member Ekstrom, would you accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would now read 155 to 175. Length of contract and fringe benefits are negotiable depending on qualifications and experience.
I would just say they're negotiable.
It says they're negotiable.
Period.
So my only, and this is me thinking long term, and this doesn't have to be on the brochure, but we will have to determine what metrics would warrant what level.
Sure, of course. Mm-hmm. Other questions or discussion on this?
I'm sorry, I think I missed something.
Sure, go ahead.
I just am not understanding. How can we possibly vote on this without having the data? Or did we get data while I was getting a drink or something?
No, and what we said, Glenn, was two things. Number one, we can't wait. And number two, we already have an understanding of what the average is in this range.
We do.
And yes, and I would say that I'm 80% sure or more that 162 is what Superintendent Harper left earning.
Okay.
So it's in the interest. So it is in the interest of moving forward, and it's not about. It's not really overall that important to have the data behind it.
Yeah.
We have the experts here that's what they do for a living is hire superintendents. So ask them your questions.
Comment? I think you'll find if you look at the really tiny rural districts, you'll find some superintendents earning from 120 to 130. I don't think you'll find anybody earning less than 120,000 a year. It isn't fair if you look at what Greenfield's mayor makes or some other people. It's never fair to the community. That's what superintendent of schools make. You should get someone with a lot of experience who wants to live in a rural area. But you're not going to find anyone under that. And there's still a lot of variation in terms of what those benefits are. And that, for some people, may be more important than the salary. And you've been paying in Greenfield 150 and up for a long time. So that's also not a surprise. So it shocks me even to hear it, even though I was a superintendent. But on the East Coast, people are getting 250 to 300,000, and it doesn't make any sense if there's a shortage. And that's what people with a lot of experience get. So this is huge for people earning a reasonable, an average salary in Greenfield, which I've checked, it's like 40 or 50,000 per person. So it's shocking. But this is the market for this position, and it isn't unusual even in Greenfield because you've been paying that for a while. And the benefits will make the difference. Then you have to just really try to get someone that'll build a good school district. But I do know there's some superintendents around getting 120 and 130. And as you get more and more rural, there are towns with only 300, 400, 500 people, or districts with only 20 children, or I'm sorry, like 100 children. And you've got this is really a complicated place, I have to say. It's complicated for a lot of reasons that are different than size. This isn't unusual, but you will find people making less, and you'll find a lot of people making more.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, so let's have, if it makes sense, we'll have Susan Farber read what we're voting on one last time, and then we'll do a roll call vote. Susan Farber, if you're there. I know
I'm
you're
here,
there.
just need a double
Yes, thank you.
unmute. So the motion is to approve the salary in the range of 155 to 175,000, and the length of contract and benefits are negotiable. There was the phrase depending on qualifications and experience that was in the original motion, but then was suggested it be dropped. So I don't know what to do with depending on qualifications and experience.
Thank you for that, Susan Farber. I know I heard Member Holland say she wanted a period after negotiable. Does anyone else feel strongly one way or the other before we vote?
May I comment?
I said anyone else.
Oh, sorry.
Member Hollins, come on, you already commented on it. Anyone else?
Period sounds good.
We know why you said it. Trust me, we understand. Anyone else care? I prefer also to have the period after negotiable. I just think it makes it a little cleaner. Right. I see Member Wall shaking her head. Is there any objection to stopping the sentence at that word? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, so we'll move to a roll call vote on what Susan Farber just read. Thank you, Susan Farber.
Member Karen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom?
Yes.
Member Hollins?
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Prietti?
Yes.
Member Wall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tracy Novak, my Twitter friend on all things school committee. I appreciate that. Kind of feel like I'm in the shadow of greatness right now.
Oh, hardly that. But I am going to leave you in Liz's good
Yes.
graces here.
Thank you so much for subbing in. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Liz, too.
Yes, and thank you, Liz. And so we voted on that. we can move forward with getting this out and we can move forward with the search at this point. Would you want, Liz, would you want to add anything while we're in public session?
I think that as long as you all are, I heard some comment about, I'm sure it's in the community profile because there is some language in there that there's a lot in there. And unless somebody wants to take a stab at rewriting that, it is good information. I will assure you that when I put that in the hands of our communications director and our graphic arts person, they will look to make that grammar and structure a little different than the way I've pulled it all together. It's
Sure.
pieces of documentation that I pulled off the internet and put together.
Sure. So it will still be edited a little bit for readability, for layout, all that.
Yeah, we have people that live to do that kind of thing, and one of them.
Can you imagine?
Actually, yeah.
Awesome. What else might you need from us right now?
If you're pleased with the brochure, I want to get. I really want to get that out and advertised right now.
Sure.
And then I'll be communicating with Jean at some point here to about when we want to orient the search committee.
Yes, great.
Now,
so we're ready for that.
Yeah, the other question I want to ask you is, do you have a specific cutoff date you have in mind for applications?
So if we were to have the job would get posted within a week now. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. And that would make it by the 21st of April. What's a normal timeline? Is it a month? Is it less than that?
So it's that time of year, and people have just, school districts have brought students back, and we're talking about managing standardized testing and all those crazy things. I would suggest going with 5 weeks.
Okay.
Just so that would give people adequate time, right, around everything else they're doing.
Sure. So that would bring us to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would bring us to a closing date around May 26th would be 5 weeks from next Wednesday. Yeah. We can make it May 28th because it's the Friday of that week.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we do a motion to approve a posting with a application received end date of May 28, 2021?
So moved.
Secretary Johnson-Musad, any second?
Second.
Was that member Ekstrom?
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom? Okay,
yep.
No, that's fine. And any discussion on that? Member Hollins, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Could you please repeat the motion?
Yes. We are moving to approve, let's call it an application period of approximately April 21st of 2021 to May 28th of 2021. A closing date of May 28th is the most important part.
This is my comment. If you put a closing date, you're obligated to not accept candidates that may find out about this late and send something in. And so the alternative to that is to say interviews will begin and have a starting date for the application review and interviewing, and to not be so definitive. That's all, because you may...
Okay.
In fact, when I was hired, it was after the closing date and somebody said, put your name in anyway. Just be careful about that, because you'll have an issue should your perfect candidate come along the week after.
Okay. Liz, please. Yeah, go ahead.
So I recently worked with Pittsfield, in fact, who voted to appoint their superintendent tonight, and they worded theirs that application review would begin on, right? So that if the perfect candidate came along, and I really just want to say that That's a great idea, Member Hollins. Thank you. And we quite often would reach out to the school committee if someone came along after the application cutoff date, just to be sure that they would love to see that person as much as we'd love to see that person get in the process. So I think if we say that applications will review will begin. And so what I'll do is after the 28th, I'll work over that weekend to put all the application packets together. One more thing I want to talk with you about is, and we'll talk about this with the search committee unless you have a preference now. There's two ways that the search committee can look at the application packets, right? They can look at every single application packet that comes in, or oftentimes, but not all the time, committees will say to us, we would like you to do the initial paper screen, bring us candidates who A, meet all the qualifications, and or if they don't, there needs to be some extreme reason why you want us to look at their packet, you know, based on their background, experience, educational qualifications, or something. And then bring sort of sometimes a smaller set of qualified, not small, but a smaller set of qualified applicants who could step into Greenfield and do the job, right? Sometimes those committees will say, bring us no less than somewhere between 5 and 10. But if we get 20 applications, I can almost guarantee you there won't be 20 people you want that group of lay people looking at. Totally up to you.
Okay.
You can also bring them all 20 packets. And I
Okay.
can have that conversation with them in executive session.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's vote on the motion regarding the application review will begin May 28th, and then we can take up that question. Susan Farber, do you have what you need for this motion?
The motion has evolved.
Yes.
And what I have right now is the motion is to approve the application period beginning approximately April 21st, 2021, with application review to begin May 28th, 2021.
I believe that sounds correct. Does anyone want to amend that in any way? I'm not hearing anything. Okay, so let's do a roll call vote on that, please. Secretary Johnson-Musad, when you finish chewing, of course.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Member Karen.
She said yes.
Okay. Let's see, Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson-Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and the second question
And
was...
I'm sorry, I have one more interruption.
Sure, that's fine.
In that evolution of the motion, I'm not yet clear who made the motion and seconded it. Chair Poyetti, did you make that motion?
No, I believe I said it, and then Secretary Johnson-Musad, did you move it and Vice Chair Ekstrom seconded, or maybe it was the reverse? Do you remember? You're both on mute, so I have no idea what's happening.
When I wrote it down, so
Yeah.
Glenn did make it and Susan Ekstrom did second,
Okay.
if you all agree with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so the question of the application review by the committee, it's a question of, do we want them to look at everything that comes in, or do we want there to be an initial screening by MASC folks before our search committee sees it? Do we have a preference on that?
Could you say a little bit about what the screening would look like? I guess I'm inclined towards it at the beginning because I've heard recently of very important positions, people applying, and their applications are so far from anything that you would even consider. So
Right.
it seems like that at least could get screened out.
And I know that Judy will appreciate these comments, but we sometimes see people who apply for every single position that's advertised, and we would not want to see us. We would not necessarily want to send them on to Greenfield to be interviewed. Greenfield does have its unique characteristics. We meet together, like everybody on staff will look at the applications. If there's any question about someone, we will reach directly out to people in their current districts and beyond to get those questions answered. So it is really just a paper screen, and we're only sending you people that would A, be a very interesting interview because of some specialized qualifications, B, meet your qualifications, and C, could be the next superintendent of the Greenfield Public Schools. We really don't want to waste people's time. That's the reasoning behind that, Glenn.
Any further questions or discussion on this? I know in my experience doing search committees in my real job, I'm always up for doing the ones where there's a pre-screen by someone who knows better than me. Because it just really does. It saves time. And I'm going to guess that many of the names, Liz, would be familiar to you, specifically folks that you've pre-screened out because it's just not even out there. It's not even close.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
In manner of speaking, you're correct. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm not articulate tonight. I'm sorry. Do we want to? We didn't do a motion on this, right? Do we want to do a motion to go one way or the other? Does anyone want to suggest a motion?
I move to have Mask do the initial screening of the applications.
Second by Ekstrom.
Second by Member Ekstrom. And further discussion. Let's, Member Hollins, go ahead.
And we should have the screened out applications available to us if someone wants to review them.
So yes, sure, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
They're not going anywhere. We'll keep them. And if there's a question, they can certainly be looked at. Yep.
Thank you. How about a roll call vote on this?
Am I unmuted? Yes. Okay, Member Karen?
Yes.
I can't hear.
Yes.
Okay, there you are. Vice Chair Ekstrom?
Yes.
Member Hollins?
Yes.
Secretary Johnson-Musad? Yes. Chair Prayati?
Yes.
Member Wall?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Did you need anything else from us tonight?
I don't need anything else from you tonight. In fact, you're not going to hear from me for a while because Jean and I in the search committee will get busy. And when those applications come in, we'll get really busy.
Yeah. Thank you. Nice to see you. Thank you for all your help.
Thank you. Of course.
Okay, so I left to put someone to bed and I came back and we were talking with the MASC folks. So what other subcommittee items do we need to do still? Did you do the calendar, the meeting schedule?
We did not, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Again, was just kind of walking the committee through just the memo that I had sent to you, just from where I sit of the various tasks. And obviously, this is another big one that is going to require a lot of attention on the part of a lot of people. So we did talk just very briefly about the collective bargaining that you've got 4 contracts that are starting to be bargained, and so that those are again things that will require the committee's immediate attention out of the gate. In terms of the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, depending on the outcome of the Ways and Means Committee next week or in a couple of weeks, and what that is going to mean for FY22 budget planning. Obviously, there will be some work that will need to be done there, as well as reviewing FY21 as we come down to the final quarter and how we're going to spend out the last of the funds and what we need and don't need. Another thing that is kind of on the radar screen right now too is with the Policy and Programs Subcommittee. We do know that there are some policies that Secretary Johnson-Musad had brought forward for potential consideration that need to come back up in front of that body, but the other pressing issue is around the upcoming Targeted Focused Monitoring Visit. It's a new acronym. They used to be called CPR visits. Now they're TFMs. They just keep changing, but the process is the same. And there are several policies that my colleague Nadine Ekstrom has noticed are going to need to be addressed by the Policy Subcommittee as we look to update the Special Education Policies and Procedure Manual prior to that visit. So again, that's another thing that's kind of on the radar screen. And my understanding, Secretary Johnson-Musad, is that the meeting will take place on Wednesday, the 23rd, from 1 to 3 p.m. Is that correct?
That sounds right. I can confirm, but I can double. That does sound right.
Okay, so I will work. Dr. Ekstrom has been away on a small vacation. I believe she's back tomorrow, so I'll double check with her on what the exact agenda items are so that we can populate an agenda for you and get that posted. So, and then the other sort of two big committees that have been starting to do some work that really the agendas kind of intersect with each other. There is the Racial Justice Advisory Committee and the Redistricting Committee, because they both are concerned with issues of equity and access for all of our students. And so, you know, again, that's another area that the committee needs to be thinking about moving forward. And then the last area, which I didn't include in the memo, but as I'm now starting to come up for a little bit of air beyond logistical considerations for bringing kids back to school, is curriculum and instruction. And taking a look at what I've been able to find for curriculum documents, the latest iteration of anything that I can find for written curriculum in the district is 2016, which is pretty old. There are new frameworks across the board. Even the arts got a new framework, woohoo! And world languages is about to get approved by the state board. So, you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that regard too. And I noticed that the committee does not have a curriculum subcommittee. Like you wanted another subcommittee, I know. Woohoo!
It's included under policy. It's been policy, program, and curriculum. It's kind of listed in different places.
Okay.
In our policy manual, it lists. It's supposed to list the names of our permanent subcommittees, but it's actually, there's a typo and it's completely blank. So that might have been revised. But anyway.
Okay, because again, it just wasn't clear to me where that needs to take place. Because again, under the roles and responsibilities of the school committee is responsible for approving curriculum and approving major instructional materials like textbooks and so on and so forth that are purchased to execute the curriculum. And so just making sure that there are processes in place around all of that, because I've heard varying things as I've been digging into this issue a little bit about what materials are being used and whether or not they've actually been approved, or, you know, what the processes are about that. And there's not real clarity on the administrative side around this. So again, those are all the things that are on your collective radar screen as a school committee. So, you know, as you're thinking about your subcommittee work, I just wanted to be able to kind of give you that sort of broad overview of, you know, this is the work that lies ahead of you and how you want to organize yourselves and your calendar for meeting those particular items, and whether or not you want to think about some, and I know Member Hollins will like this word, but some goals of what are the priority issues that you as a committee want to be able to address moving forward. So that's my spiel, and I'll leave it to you to discuss.
I appreciate the context and the thoughtfulness as well, specifically that went into this. So thank you. And I'm trying to figure out a way to tackle this in a very logical, prescriptive way. I'm actually wondering if if we should put as an agenda item, I'm just thinking out loud for a second here, an agenda item for kind of talking about the different subcommittees at our next school committee meeting in May, and the structure of them. But I'm not sure I would take any ideas from the rest of the school committee on how to proceed. It's a lot, especially when we are a committee that, in most cases, we have, it's difficult. We've seen it's difficult for the mayor to really participate very much in subcommittees. So that leaves us down by one person. There's been discussion as recently as this year about expanding the number of people on the school committee, in part because of the subcommittee evolution. I won't share I have plenty of opinions on that. I won't share them right now, but because it's kind of tangential to this. But any thoughts on what Dr. Houle has presented to us and how we would like to organize, tackle, whatever we want to call it, our subcommittees?
I have a couple thoughts.
Please, Secretary Johnson-Musa, go ahead.
I think that it's important that we acknowledge the amount of capacity we have for subcommittee work, and really build from a strong foundation. And I feel like with COVID-19 and everything that has happened, it might be worthwhile just to start getting our standing committee meetings happening on a regular basis, and keeping special projects like redistricting and I don't see racial justice as a special project. I honestly think that can be at the heart of every subcommittee. But I just personally don't see a lot of bandwidth given this superintendent search, the ongoing issues with COVID-19, the new leadership, et cetera. I just don't see that we actually have the ability to do extra projects especially well right now. So I wonder if, as a starting step, if we just establish monthly meetings of our standing committees on a regular schedule, if that would be the next step forward.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Other discussion, comments? I know that there is definitely at least one committee at the city level that meets on a regular schedule with a standing agenda. So they just, it just gets updated each time, and their agenda is basically the same because they talk about the same things. That would not necessarily work for our subcommittees, but something more prescriptive like Secretary Johnson-Musad is proposing, I do think would help organize us. We'll have, these subcommittee meetings monthly, and have a general sense of their mission, their purpose, front and center, so that we can get the work done when they are meeting. I think that would help us a great deal. Would it make sense for me to put together a proposed monthly meeting schedule for all of the subcommittees and bring that to the next meeting for us to discuss?
I guess
Member Hollins?
Comment. First, I want to say how much I appreciate Judy Houle stepping in and all the things she's doing. It's really just a relief to have an experienced superintendent at the helm, and I appreciate everything she's done. I just want to say that so my comments aren't misinterpreted. I'm greatly concerned that we stopped our basic standing committees of policy and finance. And the reason is that's our primary responsibility to the voters, each of us independently, to oversee the expenditure of funds. And even though we're overcommitted, that primary responsibility in law, that's the whole reason we're elected, is to oversee the expenditure of funds, the budget, the business manager, how we're allocating funds. We have all this new money coming in. So I think no matter how overcommitted we are, we've got to get the budget committee and the policy committee. Those are the two primary statutory duties back in place. It's like maintenance. The longer we wait, the more complicated it is to address the issues, and they should meet all the time. They've had a regular schedule. Maybe you want to change who's on the committees, but they need to be active and just keep plodding away. Superintendent has mentioned 15 special ed policies that need to be done. We've agreed we have to look at quite a few other operational policies. So I just want to say, I don't think we need to think a lot about those two committees. They have a regular schedule they need to meet. And maybe you need to canvass the six of us that are on this committee at the moment and see who has time for what. But those committees need to get going. And I just want to say there was a change from 9 to 7 members. I think it was in.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that right now. That's why I didn't comment on
Okay,
it.
so
Let's
I
just
just
keep
want to
moving.
say I'm very alarmed our budget committee isn't meeting, and I hope they're
Well,
operational again.
We are
soon.
meeting for sure the budget committee is meeting for sure when there is business to attend to. We were asked to put on hold committee meetings while we got the district ready to open for our students in person.
And my comment is to say, I think we have to keep going and get those reinstated. That's my thought.
Fair enough. Other comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Glenn, you were next. Go ahead. And then Member Wall.
Dr. Houle, in addition to the capacity of school committee members to attend these, there's also the issue of your capacity. And I'm just curious whether our standing committees are budget policy, and we've got health and facilities. Are there any other standing committees? Would you have bandwidth to support 3 monthly standing committee meetings?
You're on mute, Dr. Houle.
Sorry about that. As
That's
long as
okay.
they're not like all in the same week or within like a day and a half of each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Just space them out for me. That's all I ask.
So Chair Peretti, I could offer as secretary, if someone wanted to task me with, it sounds like working between, I guess we could look at the schedules as they were in place before we put them on hold and see if that schedule works for Dr. Houle, and if not, then we could make some adjustments.
Sure. I have a spreadsheet of the standing committee, the subcommittee information that I can expand to put in. It already has who's on it, who's chair. We can expand it to put when they actually meet on a monthly basis, and any other pertinent information to kind of that structure so it doesn't get lost and we don't find us in this position again. Let's start there and maybe have this as an agenda item and bring it forward for the next meeting in May, so that we can make sure the public is aware of how that's going to work from this point forward. And it'll give us time to make sure we can coordinate with the superintendent's schedule as well. But I appreciate your offer, Secretary Johnson-Machad, but I'm happy to take that on, and it'll help me to be reoriented better to subcommittees. Any other further discussion on that? Everyone okay with moving on? Okay. Okay, so correspondence school newsletters. I don't actually know what this is, other than what's in our packet.
Right, and technically you should be listing items that are in the packet as correspondence items. So I'm working with Lauren to, again, try and organize the agenda and also just make sure that all of the corresponding items are in there. So there's nothing that's in the correspondence that needs your vote. It's just basically informational.
Thank you. Okay. And those are in the materials that is on the website for the public as well as the school committee members to review. So thank you for that. And again, I love the new structure of the agenda, if I didn't already say that. So it looks like we are ready to move for our second executive session. So the exemption under which we're calling the executive session MGLC 30A subsection 21, exemption number 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, as well as exemption number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I do declare, the committee will return to open session after this executive session, just so the folks on the line with us are aware. GCTV is already aware. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved, Johnson Musad.
And a second.
Second, Ekstrom.
Vice Chair Ekstrom with the second, and a roll call vote, please.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad. I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we will go back to our other executive session link for this, and we will return. It's hard to say. We will return, though.
We will return.
Thank you. We are back from the executive session, and we have 2 items to vote on in public session. Excuse me while I get to my agenda here. Okay, so the first item is to, give me one sec. Sorry, guys.
Okay, would be to
I'm
approve.
trying to cut it close for Dr. Hull's mission that she's.
There you go. So I'm going to help you. It's to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Greenfield Education Association with regard to the return to full in-person learning.
So moved.
That was
Second.
Member Hollins, and a second. Someone second it and I missed it.
Second.
Second.
Member Wall, okay. And can we do a roll call vote, please?
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad. I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And now we have a contract approval for the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 1459. And a motion to approve that contract as presented, please.
So moved, Johnson Musad.
Second.
Second from Member Wall. And a roll call vote, please.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad. I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. And how about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I hear it.
Second.
All right. I don't know who that was. I heard Glenn at the end. I don't know who the motion was.
Ekstrom.
Okay, Ekstrom. And a roll call vote, please.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad. I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At
Wonderful.
9:25. Good job.
Thanks everyone for a good meeting.